Disclaimer: this story contains mature themes intended for adult viewers. Viewer discretion is advised. The steam curled around her like a silk veil, the faint scent of lavender clinging to the air. Water lapped gently against porcelain, her legs stretched languidly over the edge of the tub, glistening with warmth and stillness. And then, he walked in. He didn't speak. Just stood there in the doorway like he'd stumbled into something sacred, or dangerous. His eyes, a little too still, a little too dark, traced the outline of a moment he wasn't meant to witness, but didn't dare to leave. She didn't flinch. Didn't cover herself. She only lifted her chin with that slow, quiet confidence that turns silence into a challenge. Their eyes locked, his hesitant, hers unreadable. "You gonna say something?" she asked, voice dipped in soft velvet, "or just keep standing there like a statue?" The air didn't shift, but everything between them did. He was her stepson, technically. But titles meant little when the room felt like a held breath between two people who'd been circling a line they shouldn't cross. It wasn't the first time she'd caught his gaze lingering a second too long. And maybe it wasn't the first time she let him. The heat of the bath was nothing compared to the heat crawling under her skin now, coiled in the pause that stretched out between her words and his answer. He took one step forward. She didn't move. There's something about a door left open, by mistake or on purpose, that dares you to walk through it. Something about eyes that see too much and still don't look away. She tilted her head, the corners of her lips curving, not quite a smile. More like a dare. And in that breathless second before he replied, the story truly began. He didn't answer right away. Just stood there, the door half open behind him, as if stepping further in would seal something unspoken between them. The soft hum of the bathwater filled the silence, the sound almost too intimate now. Her eyes didn't waver. They studied him, his clenched jaw, the way his hands stayed awkwardly in his pockets, the rise and fall of his chest that betrayed something deeper. Maybe curiosity. Maybe nerves. Maybe something neither of them were ready to name. "You always this quiet?" she asked, the corner of her mouth twitching with restrained amusement. His throat bobbed as he swallowed. "You just looked like you didn't mind." Her smile faded, just a little, replaced by something quieter, weightier. "Would it matter if I did?" That question lingered like mist. He finally stepped inside, only a few feet, but the air shifted. The space between them was suddenly thick, charged, like a secret neither of them said aloud but both kept breathing in. "I didn't mean to walk in on you," he added, his voice softer now, more real. "But I didn't want to walk out either." Her fingers brushed the water absent-mindedly, creating slow ripples. "Honest. That's new." He moved closer, drawn like a moth to the slow burn of her presence. He wasn't just looking at her body, though her skin glowed against the dim light, the water like glass over her curves. He was watching her. The way her gaze stayed firm. The way she didn't shrink from the moment. "You make it hard to think straight," he said quietly, almost to himself. Her breath caught, just a little, like she hadn't expected him to say it out loud. She reached for a towel at the edge of the tub but didn't pull it close, just toyed with the edge, fingers lingering, slow. "You're not supposed to say things like that to me," she whispered, voice thick like honey. "Then stop looking at me like that," he said. They were only feet apart now. The kind of closeness that didn't touch skin but touched everything else. Her smile returned, this time softer, tinged with something like ache. "I don't look at you any kind of way." He raised an eyebrow, daring her to believe her own lie. Outside, the world kept spinning. Inside, they were frozen on the edge of something neither could name. Not yet. He lingered in the space between decision and regret, feet rooted to the warm tiles, chest rising and falling like he was holding back a storm. She sat still, her breath shallow beneath the hush of the bathwater, eyes never leaving his. Time slowed. Or maybe it just stopped, right there, in that fragile bubble where neither of them moved, but everything pulsed beneath the surface. "I should go," he murmured, but didn't move. His voice was rough with restraint, like every word cost him. She tilted her head slightly, something unreadable in her gaze. Then why haven't you? His jaw tensed. That was the question, wasn't it? He wasn't a boy. She wasn't fragile. But the weight of what wasn't being said hung over them like a curtain, heavy and sheer. If he touched her now, just a brush of skin, it would unravel something they both had spent months pretending didn't exist. I don't want to do something stupid, he confessed, voice low. Honest. Too honest. She smiled, but it wasn't smug. It was sad, tender, like she saw straight through him. You think I don't fight it, too? His eyes met hers, and for a moment, the silence roared. Her hand rose from the water slowly, droplets gliding down her arm like liquid light, and she reached, not for him, but for the towel again. Her fingers brushed his as he handed it to her. Neither pulled away. The contact was soft, barely there. But it seared. Her breath hitched. His eyes flicked to her lips, then away. He stepped back, not in rejection, but in self-defense. This shouldn't feel like this, he said, shaking his head. But it does, she whispered, barely audible. He looked away first. She wrapped the towel around herself, but not to cover, just to break the moment, to breathe. She stood, water trailing down her legs, and walked past him slowly, brushing his arm as she moved. He closed his eyes. She paused in the doorway, voice husky. Don't follow me. She didn't have to say why. The ache in her voice said it all. But he wanted to. Oh, he wanted to. She stopped just outside the doorway, her back to him, shoulders rising and falling like she was trying to breathe past the storm swelling in her chest. He hadn't moved. Still frozen there, damp with the heat of the room, but burning with something deeper. Louder. Say something, she whispered without turning. Her voice wasn't commanding, it was breaking. He took a step. Just one. If I say it, he paused, the words rough in his throat, I won't be able to take it back. Her fingers tightened around the towel, the soft fabric a poor shield against everything unraveling inside her. Then don't take it back, she said. That did it. The distance between them disappeared, not with a touch, but with the kind of closeness that rearranges the air. He stood just behind her, close enough that she could feel the warmth of him, the tremble in his breath. Close enough that if she leaned back even slightly, she'd be in his arms. But she didn't. She stood still. And so did he. I think about you, he said, voice low, careful. More than I should. More than I want to. A soft gasp left her lips, sharp, involuntary. I tell myself it's wrong, he continued, that you're off limits. But then I see you. The way you carry yourself. The way you see me. And I forget every reason why I shouldn't feel this. Her eyes fluttered shut. Her hands slowly lifted, hesitating, then falling back to her side. You don't know how many times I've wanted to say something. But I didn't trust myself to mean it. Silence stretched between them, thick and pulsing. He leaned in, breath brushing her shoulder. And now? She turned, slowly, deliberately. Their eyes met. Raw. Unarmored. Everything laid bare in that fragile, fierce moment. Now, she murmured, voice trembling, I'm more afraid of not saying it. Their faces hovered inches apart. Their hands almost touched. Every heartbeat between them begged for something they couldn't quite allow. Not yet. She exhaled. He swallowed. And just before something irreversible happened, she whispered, if you kiss me, everything changes. His fingers twitched. His breath caught. But he didn't move. Neither did she. And the story held its breath with them. It was raining. Not a storm, just that soft, endless kind of rain that hushes the world. The kind that taps on windows like a lullaby and makes everything feel closer, slower, more inevitable. She stood by the window, arms folded gently over herself, wrapped in a thin robe that clung to her skin like a secret. The city lights outside shimmered through streaked glass, gold and blurred. Behind her, the room was dim, lit only by a single lamp that cast a honey-warm glow across the hardwood floors. He was there. She didn't hear him approach, only felt it, the subtle pull of his presence before his hand gently touched the small of her back. Not possessive. Not demanding. Just there, solid and quiet like the night itself. She didn't turn. Didn't need to. Her body relaxed into him like she'd been waiting to. His breath brushed against her shoulder, and her eyes fluttered shut. "Are you sure?" he asked, voice low, thick with hesitation and heat. "I've never been more sure," she whispered. And just like that, they unraveled. He wrapped his arms around her waist, pulling her back against his chest, and she exhaled like she'd been holding her breath for years. His hands moved slowly, reverently, memorizing the shape of her through layers of silk and skin. Her head tilted to the side, inviting him in, and when his lips grazed her neck, it wasn't hunger, it was homecoming. They didn't speak again. They didn't need to. When he turned her to face him, her robe slipped slightly off one shoulder. He caught it, not to cover her, but to hold her, to feel the curve of her bare skin beneath his fingertips. Her hand came to rest on his chest, where his heart was beating faster than it ever had. They moved together like they'd always known how, like this moment had been written into their bones. Her breath melted into his. His hands mapped the places where words had failed. Their kisses were soft, then slow, then deeper, until the room faded and only they existed. When they finally fell into bed, it wasn't about the fire, it was about the burn that had built for so long, it now glowed steady and warm beneath their skin. Her body pressed against his, every inch a confession. His touch wasn't rushed, it was reverent. Worshipful. Like he knew what this meant. Like he felt it, too. They didn't say, "I love you." But their bodies spoke it, again and again, in silence. And when the rain kept falling, they stayed tangled in each other's arms, the world outside blurred into a quiet nothing. Inside, everything was clear. Morning crept in slowly, with soft gray light bleeding through half-drawn curtains. The rain had stopped. The silence it left behind felt heavier than it should have. She lay on her side, eyes open, watching the quiet dance of light on the ceiling. His arm was still draped over her waist, warm, weighty, but not possessive. Just there. Like an echo of everything they didn't know how to say. Neither had spoken. He stirred behind her, breath shifting against her shoulder. She felt it, the hesitation in the way he pulled his arm back, like retreating from a dream he wasn't sure he should have touched. She sat up slowly, letting the sheet pool at her waist. He followed, his eyes on her back, his thoughts a storm behind his silence. "Does it feel different now?" she asked, voice raw. Not angry. Just unsure. He didn't answer right away. "It feels real." She let that hang. Real could mean anything. Real could be beautiful, or terrifying. There was a knock at the front door. They both froze. She reached for her robe, his shirt forgotten on the floor. "Stay here," she murmured, more to herself than to him. Barefoot, she padded through the hall, heart suddenly racing, robe clutched tight at her chest. When she opened the door, she wasn't prepared. Her husband's sister stood there. His aunt. "Hey," the woman said cheerily, holding a forgotten scarf. "I was passing through. Thought I'd drop this off before work." She stepped forward, and froze. Her eyes flicked down to the bare feet, the tousled hair, the shirtless figure now standing just behind her in the hallway, confusion and quiet dread etched into his face. "Oh," she said softly, blinking too fast. "I didn't realize you weren't alone." The silence screamed. She handed the scarf over with a half-smile that didn't reach her eyes. I should go. When the door shut, they were alone again. Only now, it wasn't just them. She leaned against the door, breathing hard. He walked to her, gently placing a hand on her arm. "What now?" he whispered. She didn't know. But when she looked up at him, her eyes weren't filled with regret. Just truth. And maybe, a little fear. The apartment was still. The morning had passed in hushed movements, coffee left untouched, words caught in throats, the echo of last night hanging like perfume in the air. Neither of them rushed to speak. They didn't need to. The silence between them was no longer awkward. It was full. Heavy. Sacred. She sat by the window again, knees drawn to her chest, watching the city begin to breathe. He moved behind her slowly, as if afraid to break whatever fragile thing still stretched between them. When his hand touched her shoulder, she didn't flinch. He knelt beside her, searching her face. "If I leave now," he said quietly, "do I become a mistake?" She turned, her fingers brushing his cheek. "No," she whispered. "You become a memory I'll never forget." He closed his eyes, forehead leaning into her palm. "But what if I don't want to be a memory?" She smiled, soft and sad. "Then love me, from a distance. And let this stay beautiful." They didn't cry. Instead, he kissed her forehead, slow, deliberate. A kiss that asked for nothing. A kiss that promised everything. And then, like a gentle ending to a song that played too long in their hearts, he stood, picked up his shirt, and walked to the door. She didn't stop him. She just watched, arms wrapped around herself, holding the ache like a secret. Before leaving, he turned once more. Eyes red, but dry. "I never looked at you the way a stepson should," he said. "And I don't regret it." She nodded, voice caught in her throat. When the door closed, the silence returned. Only this time, it didn't feel empty. It felt earned. She returned to the bath that evening. Steam rising, legs draped over the edge like before. But this time, there was no one watching. Just her, the warmth, and the memory of a moment that lived far beyond rules. Some stories burn bright, then end soft. And some never really end at all.